Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me well? I hope so. You can use perfect. Thank you from my colleagues from Gaza. I'm Anna Laurenzelli. I'm the Chief of Private Partnerships, and I have the pleasure and the honor to open the floor of our first virtual webinar on empowering the digital generation of Palestinian refugees. And first of all, thank you to everyone to join us. Let me say that events like this are crucial for us to show our impact on the ground and to think together also to open the floor to you to see how to amplify our impact. Today, we will have the chance to highlight a project we are particularly proud of. Information technology service is, sorry, I don't know, I'm receiving another call. I don't know why, sorry. I was saying that today we have the opportunity to present something that we are particularly proud of, our Information Technology Service Center in the Gaza Strip that provides IT solution to UNRWA, but also to other UN agencies. So this is particularly important for many reasons. First of all, because it's, our concrete contribution to digitalize and modernize UNRWA, but also empowering, and this is the most important part, hundreds of young digital generation of Palestinian refugees in Gaza with livelihood opportunities, and as well as with capacity building and to allow them and to create the basis for a better future. Before passing the floor to my colleagues in Gaza, let me share with you a practical information. We will have a final Q&A session facilitated by me and Karim, the Director of External Relations. So you can use the chat box to send your question, and we will reply at the end. Let me introduce the speakers today. Thomas White, Director of UNRWA in Gaza. Kaan Setinturk, Chief of Information Officer and Director of IMTD. And Tasnim Amouda, Communication Officer at IMTD. Sorry for my Arabic is not good, I know. And the floor is yours, and thank you again.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for that introduction, Anna Laura. And it's great to be able to join in this discussion about empowering the digital generation, and particularly here in Gaza. And for everybody who's joining, I thought I might just set the scene. UNRWA works in Gaza to support 1.5 million people out of a population of 2 million people, primarily with core services such as education. We educate just under 300,000 students in our schools. We provide primary health care to 1.2 million people in Gaza. That equates to about 4 million consultations a year, and a range of other services to the refugee community. On top of that, we have now 15 years of an economic siege of Gaza. Now, the consequences of that are, soaring rates of poverty. 83% of the families, refugee families, are living in poverty. It's driven by chronic levels of unemployment. Official unemployment figures sit between 45 and 50%, but for youth, it's much closer to 70%. There are no opportunities here. And in every community meeting I have, every exchange with people in one of the refugee camps on the street is jobs, 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 jobs. And there are no easy answers to that situation. except for technology. And this is where we do see that there are opportunities in terms of, you know, people accessing an economy which is not constrained by the blockade, an ability for young Gazans who, despite the grinding levels of poverty here, do have health indicators which put them at middle income country levels. They have a very good standard of education. They predominantly speak very good English, which is an asset for a global economy. And that's what we're really excited about. Through technology, through digitisation, how can we connect young Gazans to a global economy? How do they get around the constraints of the blockade? And, you know, it's great to be able to join Khan today because we have some early initiatives in terms of training young people in coding and setting them up either to freelance for companies outside of Gaza, or in fact, as Khan's team has very successfully done, create opportunities to provide services to clients outside of Gaza. So, you know, this is enormously important in preparing not only a group of young people for the digital age, but a particularly vulnerable group of people, young people in Gaza, who need to be able to connect with the global economy. And I might leave my comments there, but more than willing to take any questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I think this is a segue to what I would like to talk about. This is the initiative of IT Service Center. I'd like to share a few slides with you for this one. We would like to, maybe if Tasneem can project this, I hope everybody can see this slide, the IT Service Center slide. This is starting with a photo of our actual working environment here in Gaza. I think Tom talked about these, just a few numbers that we found in our communication material at UNRWA's website. There's an enormous amount of people in a very small area with a lot of poverty rate, unemployment rate, and so on. And the question there is probably, why did we open the IT Service Center in Gaza when there are so many difficulties that are experienced in every level? And maybe there I can explain that. What is an IT Service Center to start with? IT Service Center is something that an entity that provides shared services to sometimes to one organization in different locations, but sometimes to a lot of different organizations as well. And there's quite a lot of advantage of having IT service centers or service centers in general in terms of harmonization of process, cost efficiency and efficacy and so on. So when I joined about 4 years ago, I joined UNRWA from another UN agency, and I was working in a shared service center in Malaysia. And that's where we were providing global IT services to the entire world from a location in Malaysia. And there I was seeing all the benefits of it. And when I arrived at UNRWA, I was trying to see, do we have a certain service center that we can tap into? And what I realized very quickly, it wasn't the case. We have 5 fields of operations. Every field of operation has the teams. They pretty much work around the same concepts, but the economy of scales wasn't there to start with, but also the efficiency is not necessarily there, where you have very separate teams doing exactly the same thing. So there I was thinking, not knowing so much about the UNRWA environment, I was thinking, oh, should we maybe make use of service centers in Philippines, in India, in Budapest, where many of the other UN organizations are going to. That thought process stopped the minute I arrived in Gaza, because visited here on the first month, and all I saw was exactly what Tom was talking about. Very, very capable young crowd, very educated, high literacy rate, but not only that, but also a lot of IT graduates from the universities. So a crowd that is hungry to do IT work. So that is already amazing. And also, as we talked about, more than 60% of this youth were unemployed, looking for job opportunities. So there the question was, okay, how are we going to be using this talent pool, and how can it be a beneficial or arrangement for both sides, for UNRWA itself, for our IT organization, but also to create the livelihood in Gaza. So that's how it all started. So we started very small, basically. We said, let's give it a go. Let's start with a few resources that we hire here instead of hiring in other field offices. And then we start creating this IT service center concept in Gaza. One of the things I know, a lot of participants right now come from the Middle East area, so that they're very much familiar with the Middle East culture, probably. And in the culture, if you were to ask, maybe 20 years ago, if you were to ask a child, what do you want to become when you grow old? Probably the answer would be doctor. I want to become a doctor, because this is what the parents expect, right? Because the doctor is the most prestigious kind of job to do. But when I asked, what do you want to become when you're older? When I first arrived, I visited some of the schools and I asked them, and the answer I got, very surprisingly, software engineer, IT engineer. And I was like, not a doctor? And they said, no, we want to be software engineers. And when I asked why, the answer was very, very clear. Because IT doesn't have any boundaries. It doesn't have any borders. So we can work in everything we want, from where we're sitting and everywhere we want. So that is the shift, I think, in the youth, that they want to be in the IT sector. And when you have youth like that, who want to be in the IT sector, who want to study IT, but who can't find job opportunities, that is your opportunity actually to provide them the job opportunities. And that is why we created the IT Service Center in Gaza. And right now, we are a service-oriented unit. We're providing services to UNRWA, but also to other UN agencies that I will quickly talk about. Our mission ever since has evolved from just creating and providing services or creating job opportunities to empowering this young generation. We call them the digital generation of Palestine refugees. This is now our objective. So how do we do this? Obviously, first of all, by creating livelihood, because that's where it all starts. We want to create livelihood through employment and internship opportunities. And we provide these services to UNRWA and to other UN agencies. The other two is more towards our ambition. And Tom was talking about that as well. We want to train the youth. We want to, in terms of IT, we want to do some career guidance. We want to create an innovative workplace, a technology hub where everybody can come together, network with each other, but not only with each other, but with all the companies in the world maybe, and create job opportunities that they didn't have before. We want to connect them to the Googles, to the Microsofts, to the Facebooks of this world, so that they can get a job there as well. So right now in the IT Service Center, we provide a lot of different services in IT, from web application to development, to service desk, to data science, to cloud computing. Do we have all these resources ready with the experience in every one of these domains? Absolutely not. And this is something we're also working on how we can actually create that knowledge, which is very, very much in need in the digital world everywhere in the world. So it's not just here in Gaza or in the Middle East, but if they were to apply for jobs in the US, would they have the right skill set? And these things that you see on the screen around data sciences, cloud computing, cybersecurity is very much looked for kind of skills. And this is where they're learning in our IT service center these skills by working in real life projects. As I said, we started very little with 6 staff members here when we first established. Now we have more than 22 times of that number. We have 130 staff members in IT service center, and practically we're the biggest IT employer in Gaza right now. And better than that, 40% of our workforce is female. And for those who know the region, 40% is great, especially in this region and in IT sector, because even in the world, the IT sector is unfortunately dominated by men. And when I talk to my other colleagues in the UN agencies about gender equality, they all suffer from this. They all talk about 80% men, 20% female. And what we have right now here is exemplary, 40% female workers that we have, staff we have. And this 130 active contracts, but throughout the 2 years that we had, we've given job opportunities to more than 540 people. So they all worked at one point for us, worked on projects with specific duration. They learned, some of them, they found better jobs. We have examples of our staff members finding jobs in the US with a US company, working for them right now, and we're very proud of them. And all this is not in the easiest working conditions, right? So what we're trying to do is probably a bit easier elsewhere, but here, this is May 2021. You see our offices. This was after the escalation that we had here. And our offices were unfortunately in a place that we couldn't use anymore. And when you look at the now, and you're going to see the virtual tour, we have a very, very modern working environment right now that I think our youth deserve. And I visited a few companies when I was visiting Silicon Valley, and these companies, they're very proud to have the best kind of working facilities for their staff. And I can say that this photo makes them jealous because I showed this photo to them. So could we have done this all ourselves? No, absolutely not, because we also created partnerships, and we want to create more and more partnerships doing this. So on a very, what partnerships did we create? We wanted to create a partnership from the private sector, for example, and I'm very happy because we have worked with, for example, a research company like Infotech in Canada to work with us on our digital transformation strategy. We work with Gartner right now, but we work with Microsoft, which is a big partner of ours, where we actually created an environment. We have all our students with access to collaborative tools right now, thanks to that. But also we have partnerships in the UN system. And I think there I can say that the biggest partner of ours in the UN system is United Nations International Computing Center, UNICC, which is the service center for the rest of the UN. So this idea, when I took it up with the director of UNICC, he was extremely happy to actually use the Gazan youth instead of outsourcing to other places. And he said, why don't we actually use this opportunity to grow both teams? So ever since UNICC hired so many people from Gaza to work for all the UN agencies, not only UNICC. We have participated in a lot of projects, like right now the COP27 is happening. COP26 last year was supported by our staff here from Gaza. Or if you look at some of the applications that other UN agencies delivered, even in the App Store, they are developed by our software developers in Gaza. So there are a lot of success stories there. And And so far, we have been given these resources to UNICC, and UNICC are working with other UN agencies as well. But in the last management committee, we also discussed about growing this partnership so that we can make every UN agency access to these resources in Gaza, so that those numbers that you have seen, 122, can grow up to maybe 1,000 if we're ambitious enough. Obviously, all this for us is livelihood opportunities. So all this contract at the end of the day feeds families in Gaza, and this is what we want to do. Is this all our aspiration here? No, absolutely not. Like we discussed a little bit, we don't want to be just providing job opportunities. We want to do much more than that. For example, we want to create this digital hub, like we discussed. And in that digital hub, and we're kind of showing a little bit the ideas that we floated around, creating an office space even more than what we have here for young people to come over, discuss together, do some prototyping work, go to a seminar room where they can hear from the best. They can hear from Microsoft, they can hear from Facebook, Google, Amazon, every other company there, their new technologies. And maybe even they can get interviewed by those companies to find jobs, or they can be trained, they can get certifications. So we want to build a place like this, where, again, the Silicon Valley companies are jealous of. Other things that we want to do is like a femtech project. We talked about 40% of our employees to be female, but we want to make more opportunities for female. We want to create projects where we can train the best university female graduates with the most modern technologies, and then give them job opportunities where they can actually learn on the job, working in a real project and not just in a classroom. We want to actually do projects for our technical vocational education and training centers, where we can work together with our colleagues and get the TIVET curriculum up to the standards of Microsoft and Google, where we teach something that is extremely relevant for the employment market today. And then the minute they're graduating from TIVET, the jobs are waiting for them because they're very, very employable. So we want to create a digital academy for the refugees, and not only necessarily in Gaza, which is where we want to start, but in all our field of operations, where IT professionals among the Palestine refugees can come and can get certifications from big companies out there. And with these certifications, again, the whole idea is that they can actually find jobs out there. So these are kind of our aspirations, only some. And we are extremely, I think, open to discussing about these opportunities and projects. And it's not just these 3 or 4 projects that we have shown. We can do much more in Gaza, and we're very happy to discuss and brainstorm with our donor community to develop some other projects as well. With that, Tasneem, I think over to you to show our.
Thank you so much, Khan, and thank you, Tom. Thank you to our beloved audience. My name is Tasneem, and I'm here as a living example of the livelihood opportunities that the IT Service Center provides to Palestine refugees. I would like to launch this virtual tour where we take you into the center as if you're walking here. First of all, we have the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and through the IT Service Center, UNRWA contributes directly to the achievement of these goals, particularly speaking, number 1, no poverty, number 5, gender equality, number 8, decent work and economic growth, and number 17, partnerships for the goals. So let's go ahead and walk through. This is section A. So we have 2 sections of the IT Service Center. And this is where our staff work. Of course, due to space limitations, not all the active members, the 130 something, work at the same time. So we still work according to a hybrid work model. Some colleagues work remotely. Some work according to different time zones. And as you can tell, the sky is the limit. I'll take you to one special place, the rest area, we like to call it. Here we gather to brainstorm, have casual meetings. The room is equipped with the latest technology for conferences as well. So we have cameras, we have screens, and we have microphones, and of course, a very nice place to stay at. Let me take you to the other section. As you can see, we like to keep a reminder of our vision to empower the digital generation of Palestine refugees. Even though it's an open space area, we haven't received any complaints. Everyone is working very smoothly, very coherently. So this is basically the two sections of the IT service center. We do have a meeting room, and you can actually see it right now. The camera might be zoomed in a little bit, but this is our meeting room. Now, to add some more faces to the story, to all the figures that you've heard, the numbers, the statistics and facts, I would like to share one of our success story. A colleague of mine, his name is Ahmed, and I'll let the story speak for itself.
أنا لاجئ من قرية يبنى. أجدادي تهجروا في سنة 48 وحاليا أنا مستقر في فلسطين قطاع غزة. بدأت دراسة من البداية من الطفولة ما قبل الثانوية في مدارس الأونروا، بعدها انتقلت لدراسة الميكاترونكس في كلية مجتمع غزة التابعة لوكالة الغرب. والدتي كانت مدرسة في الأونروا يمكن لمدة 30 عام، حاصل على أفضل مدرسة على مستوى فلسطين. هي كانت الملهم الأول لإلي، لكن للأسف في 2014 بعد ما حصلت الحرب تم قصف منزل مجاور لنا وأنهى كل شيء جميل في حياتنا. تأثير الحصار كان كبير، يعني في أحد الفترات لما كنت بتعلم في بداياتي ما كان في عندي الإمكانيات إن يكون عندي كهرباء مستمر، فكنت أخذ دائما اللابتوب وأطلع فيه على أحد الأصدقاء أشحنه عنده، بعدين أرجع مشوار ساعة عبال ما أرجع أكمل من أول جديد. تخصصت في مجال الميكاترونكس، كنت حابه، كان تخصص واعد، لكن للأسف في مشاكل كتير بتواجه التخصصات التقنية بسبب الحصار. بالإضافة لأن الحروب كانت أي مصانع ممكن يكون فيها اللي هو يعني تخصصاتنا موجودة فيها دمرت، وبالتالي اضطريت إني أغير التخصص كذا مرة. في النهاية اضطريت أعمل شيفت كارير للمرة الثانية وأدور أحاول أشوف أي مجال ما بتأثر بالحصار، فوجدت مجال التصميم. أخذت كورسات دورات أونلاين، استمريت عليها سنتين وبعدها حصلت على وظيفة في الأونروا. الأونروا وفرت لي كثير كورسات أونلاين مجانية، وفرت لي شهادات مدفوعة، وفرت مكان، وفرت خبرات من أشخاص زمايلي كانوا موجودين معي في نفس المكان تستفيد منهم بشكل يومي. مع الفريق كثير طورنا مواقع وتطبيقات استخدموها ملايين من البشر حوالين العالم، وبالأخص للناس اللي بيهتموا فيهم الأمم المتحدة من لاجئين وفي مناطق تحصل فيها نزاعات. الجمال في الموضوع إنه إنجازك في نهاية اليوم لحل مشكلة وتسهيل حياة الناس، فبحب دائما يكون في تحسين أو تطوير على الخدمات اللي نوفرها للاجئين في كل مكان. الطموحات المهنية كثيرة، بس ممكن نختصرها في إنك تحاول تبتكر طرق تساعد الناس اللي بيعانوا من مشاكل في الحركة والتنقل والأكسسبيليتي، بإنهم تسهل حياتهم اليومية. بالإضافة كمان إنه تميز في مجالك وتحاول تكون سيرتيفايد في مجال اليوزر اكسبيرينس ديزاين. في الفترة الحالية بشعر بسعادة مع عائلتي وطفلتي. طبعا هذا بيعطيني دافع أكبر للعمل والإنجاز وحتى للإبداع. كلي أمل بمستقبل باهر ومشرق لي ولعائلتي.
Ahmed is only one of hundreds, if not even more, of stories that are waiting for the right opportunity to be heard. I will end here, and I will leave it over to you, Ana Laura.
Thank you, everybody. And again, this is an interactive meeting, so please don't hesitate to add your question, or you can also raise your hand, and we will be happy to reply. Okay, I think that I can hand over to Karim Amer, our External Relations Director, for moderate this session of Q&A.
I'm happy to help out and moderate. This is a very exciting session. Thank you very much for the very inspiring presentation so far, and the very powerful film of the story of Ahmed, which I think can serve to inspire. I see that there's already a few comments and questions in the chat. You probably don't see them, colleagues Khan and Tom, so if you don't mind, I'll read them out to you. I think they're mainly for you so far, Khan, but we'll catch up with the other ones as well. So the first question is from Mohammed, who says he's an IT professional in the US, and he'd like to know how IT professionals in the US can help. What can they do to support this exciting project? The second question, again to Khan, is the financial model of the ITSC. Could you explain it in a bit more detail, and is it sustainable? And the third question is on, or comment rather, can you think about providing additional services for youth, internship programs, traineeship programs, job placement assistance? Are there ways to expand the range of services that could be provided to the youth in Gaza? So over to you, colleagues in Gaza. Khan, please.
All right, thank you. I'll try to address them one by one. Maybe starting with the IT professional in the US who wants to help us. Thank you very much for that. I think everybody can help at this stage, and the way you help is, first of all, you can definitely get in touch with us, and we will work together on finding the best way to help. But we had a few other professionals in other places who wanted to help, and what we talked about is there are multiple ways of helping us. One is if you're working as an IT professional in a big organization who is producing software, for example, obviously you can be our voice in that company, and we can see how we can work together with that company in terms of providing software solutions to us, providing hardware, providing any kind of connectivity. That is one way of helping UNRWA, by actually providing some software, hardware, connectivity to us. That is one way of helping us. The second way, obviously, is if you're working for a company where you can actually provide better connectivity for the Palestine refugees in Gaza, that would be great. Let's talk together how we can actually provide better connectivity in the camps, provide better connectivity in our clinics, in our schools, So that is something we can definitely work on. But if you're not working for any of these companies, even if you're working by yourself as a freelancer, working in the US, you had a lot of experience yourself. So we can organize a tech talk with you where you can explain your experience to our staff members here so that they can actually benefit from your experience. Even at that level, we're happy to organize those talks, and you can individually help many of our staff here, but by just sharing your story, just sharing your experience with them. But again, I think the best way is that we get in touch and we find ways of you helping us. On the second question was the financial model of IT Service Center. Is this sustainable? IT Service Center is obviously we're part of UNRWA, so we're governed by the financial regulations of UNRWA. What we do is when we do work, if we're doing the work for UNRWA, we're using the project funding that we have for that particular project, and then we're hiring staff members against that project that we have so that they contribute for that project to us. We have a lot of projects at the moment going on, and we use the IT Service Center to develop software, to develop user interface and user experience, guidance for us, to develop documentation. Anything that you think about, we take our employees here and we employ in the IT Service Center, and they contribute to that project and they're funded by that project. And also if somebody is working for another UN agency, that UN agency is actually paying for the salary of that employee, and they're also contributing to, for example, they're buying the laptop, they're buying some of the connectivity, they're providing us also cost of us supporting them. So we're completely self-sufficient in terms of the costing, so that we don't actually draw any funding from the UNRWA's program budget, so that we're self-sufficient on that. And also in terms of additional services, internships, careers, I think that is exactly tying down with our aspirations. Are we doing enough? Probably not. I can say that we hired some interns, for example, only a few months ago. It's not enough. We need to provide more internships. We need to provide more career guidance, and our projects have those elements. In our projects, we put elements where we create on-the-job learning opportunities, and we create even possibilities for career guidance. Some trainings on how to write a CV, some trainings on how to do interviews, some trainings on how to be a better freelancer. They're all part of our project proposals, and we hope to find donors for those so that we can create all these possibilities. Do you want to add anything to this, Tom?
Look, and I think this is how there's also a partnership with some of our existing programs in Gaza here for youth, in our technical and vocational colleges, where we are not only providing IT graduates, but also looking at job placement, apprenticeship schemes. So I think there's quite a lot of synergy with the existing training colleges that UNRWA is under. So several thousand young Gazans are studying in our technical colleges already.
Absolutely. Over to you, Perry.
You are mute, Karim. You are mute.
Apologies. I'll take a couple of more questions and comments that have come up from the chat. One perhaps for Tasneem, which is what certificates or qualifications are required in order to join the center, in order to be recruited. We have Mohammed, who's been very active in the chat and is very eager to engage. He is a professor of software engineering in Tucson, Arizona, and eager to provide tech talks or any types of webinars that he can further engage with. So maybe that's something also, a contact we can take up with him. And then there's a comment from Alan, who's from Gaza Sky Geeks, saying that they would also like to see if it's possible to support the growth of local Palestinian tech companies. How can UNRWA help to run projects through local companies that are trying to help and grow those companies in the local tech sector in Gaza? So maybe we stop there and then we can take a few more after. Thanks, Khan.
All right, all right, that's very good, because we have a few answers to these questions. One was about, I mean, to our colleague and professor in the States, that's perfect. Let's get in touch after this, because we can definitely tap on your knowledge and experience. Very happy about that. The other question, I will get to the question about the private sector, but there was another one, the second one, I think that.
What kind of major?
Yeah, what kind of certifications?
What kind of certifications or qualifications are required?
Well, obviously that will depend on the job opening itself, because depending on what kind of a resource we're looking at, we often put the certifications. But our idea here is that we want to give you the opportunity, even if you don't have the certification, because obviously for some positions, our partners, they do ask for already experienced, already skilled kind of resources, and in that case, we put those certifications in the job advertisements. But we're always trying to convince our partners not to seek for certifications, so that you can have an opportunity to learn it on the job and actually maybe get the certification from us later on. But if you're asking this question in the sense that how can I improve myself, I would definitely say try to get certifications that are very, that are very much at the moment popular, I can say, like cloud certifications. If you're in that domain, try to get some cloud certifications. Try to get an ITIL certification. It's always very helpful if you can. Maybe a project management certification, Prince 2 or PMP, that will always help you out in finding jobs. Coming to private sector comments, and I will also give the floor to Tom in a minute. But what I can say is definitely I do completely support the growth of the local Palestinian tech companies. But I don't think it should be rather than. I think it should be together with. And there we have had multiple discussions with PITA, Palestinian Information Technology Association, who represent the tech companies in Palestine, private tech companies in Palestine. And we will work more with them, and we will also provide opportunities where we do some of these tech talks with them, with the private sector employees as well, so that we can explain our experience and give that knowledge to them as well. And I think there is a lot to work there as well. And we're going to be definitely working, and we're going to be growing together, not just as unknown.
And just to follow up on that, it's great to have the question from you, Alan from Gaza Sky Geeks, who really have been a really groundbreaking work by Mercy Corps, Gaza Sky Geeks, to help develop the tech sector, the digital industries in Gaza. And I just echo Khan's comments. We see this as complementary to the broader ecosystem, and there are certainly discussions about how UNRWA can play a role to help the rest of the ecosystem develop in the years to come. But just one very practical example. I think, Khan, you mentioned the fact that you've got 130 people working right now, but actually you've had over 500 who've come through the service centre. And I think, Alan, they are producing the young people who get some experience servicing, for example, other UN agencies, that then leave and go and say, okay, I'm ready to now set up and develop myself in the private sector. Yeah.
And what we say often here is turnover for us is actually good. It's one of our ambitions. It's normally organizations or private sector, they don't want to lose their resources. We want to lose our resources. Why? Because the job opportunities that we create at the moment, because of the financial sustainability as well, they're limited time job opportunities, because we have a project for a year and we hire somebody within that year to work with us. But then ideally, we want that person to find a permanent job in the private sector here in Gaza or elsewhere in Palestine, so that they use whatever they learned in that 1 year for the benefit of the private sector as well. So we definitely support that, very much so.
If I can just, there's a related question from Firas, which is, I think, getting to, can UNRWA help to serve as an incubator? Have you considered creating teams and spinning them off as separate companies or startups?
Do you want to talk about that?
Look, Faris, look, thank you very much for the, it was interesting. I was speaking with the Consul General from the UK about something very similar when she was here this week. We do want to be part of the tech ecosystem here in Gaza, and I do think that what we're doing here with the centre does create the opportunity to put people together who get some experience and are then considering a spin-off, as you say, or moving into a startup phase. But we very much welcome a further discussion about how UNRWA can play a role more broadly in supporting the tech industry here in Gaza.
Yeah.
Great. And then there's one last question that I see, which is related to remote work. Is the center is it a necessary physical workspace where people need to come to work, or is it a type of a network as well where people can join you remotely?
Well, at the moment we have a lot of staff working remotely already. But I'll tell you this, obviously in Gaza, we cannot assume that every applicant has the connectivity and has the necessary working environment remotely, because the connectivity at home is not necessarily good enough to be able to work full time. So what we're trying to do is to provide the office space so that they can come and they can work from a place where they can they can share knowledge with their other colleagues, where they can use the connectivity that we provide as well. If that is not possible, we are very much open to remote working arrangements as well, as many of our staff, they do remote working. But that is one of our ambitions as well, is to create a physical space. And that's one of our projects, a physical space where we can actually accommodate all our staff members, because I think our staff members, they mostly want to come to the office. It's not that they want to do remote working, interestingly, because here there's a lot of intellectual conversations happening. And when they're stuck with one thing, they can go back to their colleague and ask about a question and say, how do you do this? And that conversations are happening. And I think when they see a professional working environment with very high connectivity speed and so on, they prefer to come here. But if there's any reason, obviously, we're very much open to remote working as well.
Great. I think that you've managed to answer all the questions that have come up in the chat, at least most of them, and we're almost at time on the hour. Any final words from you, Khan, Tom, Tasneem?
And look, all I'd say is, if you're interested in working with us, you've got ideas in terms of how to develop this, please reach out. And we're really looking forward to, working with partners in support of, the digital generation here in Gaza. We see it as a really significant opportunity to change the lives of thousands, tens of thousands of young people here in Gaza.
Great, and that's exactly what the last comment in the chat was, which is how do we scale up? How do we scale and reach a bigger population? So I think that's the challenge for all of us moving forward. And just really wonderful. Thanks for this. I think this will be a first in a series of webinars, so that we can stay in touch with this community and expand the outreach and continue to gather contacts, ideas, inputs, and energy. And we will, if you would like to continue sending comments, please do. We can continue responding in the chat after we close the session. Otherwise, the facilitators will also send contact details for you to reach out individually to colleagues who you may want to get additional information from or share expertise with, like our colleague who said he's a professor in Arizona and would like to be able to contribute himself directly to this. And of course, we will share the presentations with the chat afterwards as well. So thank you all for a very exciting session, and look forward to watching the work of the center grow. Congratulations so far.
Thank you.
Thank you.